Are you considering moving to Chicago but unsure of how expensive it is to live here? It's no doubt that Chicago is one of the greatest cities in the United States of America. It's also the only non-coastal major metropolitan city in America, and it's full of pride. However, can you afford to live here? Believe it or not, Chicago is still relatively one of the more affordable major metropolitan cities to live in the United States. In this video, I'm going to break down how much it really costs to live here and give you actual data and numbers to give you an idea of how much you're going to be spending every single month if you live in Chicago. My hope is that this video gives you more information so that you can make a clear, confident, and informed decision about relocating to Chicago if that's something you've been considering. Welcome you all to another video. My name is John Sintich. I'm your guide to all things real estate in the Chicagoland area. If this is your first time on the channel, I want to thank you for coming. And if you're returning to the channel, thank you as well. I want to remind everyone, I am a licensed realtor in the state of Illinois. If you have any real estate needs, such as buying, selling, investing in real estate in the Chicagoland area, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is going to be on the screen as well as below in the description of this video. Myself or someone on my team will reach out to you within 24 hours of you reaching out to us. Okay, let's get into the cost of living in Chicago. According to Numbeo.com, Chicago is actually 18% less expensive than the baseline New York City. So New York City is the baseline when they consider cost of living in the entire world. So they use that number as 100, and Chicago is going to be 82% of that baseline 100. Now keep in mind, Chicago is actually 20% higher with regard to cost of living compared to the national average. However, the national average is tied to all these other places that might not necessarily be major metropolitan cities, might be somewhere out in the country, might be much lower population density and very low cost of living, which brings that average down. When you compare it to a place like Chicago, of course, it's going to be over the national average, just given all the amenities and things that you have access to when you live in Chicago versus a place where maybe the population's like 1,000 people, right? You see what I'm getting at. Now, the amenities and perks that you get when you live in Chicago are actually much more affordable when you compare them to a place like New York or a major city in California, for instance. Let's look at cost of living by expense category. You can see that Chicago is over 20% higher than the national average when it comes to overall expenses, and it's 54% higher than the national average when it comes to housing. Utilities are actually less than the national average. You could see groceries are above the national average. Transportation is actually 24% higher than the national average. So let's break down these expense categories one by one. First, let's look at transportation. So you're either going to be using public transportation to get to work and school, or you might be using the car that you own. So you're just driving yourself, whether it's work, school, a grocery store, whatever. You also might just be using a combination of the two. Now you're going to want to know Chicago has a fantastic train system called the L, which takes you all throughout the entire city. And then they also have metro stations, which take you out of the city into the surrounding suburbs. These are all very affordable options. Now here's where things get really expensive. When it comes to things like rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft, you're going to want to use these sparingly and especially be very conscious of what time you're actually using these rideshare services. If it's rush hour or if it's late on a Saturday or it's a holiday, there's lots of price surges, which actually dramatically increase the cost of using one of these services. So keep that in mind as well. Cab fare is also very expensive compared to other cities. And here's another issue. If you're driving your own car, the cost of driving your car is expensive, simply based on the cost of fuel. The cost of fuel is much higher than the national average here in Chicago. Right now, at the time of recording this video, the average gallon of gas in Chicago costs $4.47. But let's actually break down the monthly costs associated with owning a vehicle in Chicago. So if you have a car payment and you purchased a car before interest rates went sky high recently, your monthly payment is likely somewhere around $350 a month here in Chicago. Now, if you bought a car in the last year or two, the average car payment is close to $800 a month. You also have car insurance payments, which are about $100 to $150 a month, depending on your driving record. As a realtor, I drive around everywhere, constantly, all day. My car insurance is about $100 a month. Also, if you live in the city and you park in a garage, that's going to cost around $200 a month, but it can vary dramatically based on the type of garage, if it's heated, if it's covered, where it's located. Those all have an effect on the price, but you can estimate around $200 a month. Now let's talk about hourly parking. Let's say you're driving somewhere, maybe you go to a restaurant, maybe you go to a recreational facility. You're going to want to use the Park Chicago app so you can pay for street parking depending on the location. And depending on that location, it's going to cost you anywhere from 50 cents an hour to maybe $4 an hour. So let's say you drive to a nicer area that maybe charges $4 an hour and you stay for 4 or 5 hours. Let's say 4 hours, you're going to be paying about $16 to park there. Now, if you park in a commercial garage overnight, you're looking over $50 to park overnight somewhere. Okay, let's get to utilities. So in comparison to the national average, you're actually going to be saving money in Chicago. The average energy bill in Chicago ranges about $100 to $140 a month, and your primary providers are going to be People's Gas for your natural gas, and then ComEd for your electricity. Now let's take a look at the average cost of groceries here in Chicago. I'm just going to throw up a chart that shows all the groceries that you're going to be paying for as I talk to kind of save time. The most popular grocery stores that you're going to run into in Chicago are going to be Aldi, Jewel Osco, and then also there's Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Mariano's. You can see here the prices. This is what you're going to expect to pay for all these various items at the grocery store. Okay, now let's get into the single biggest expense. Before we do that, I want to remind everyone, if you're getting any value from this video whatsoever, do me a huge favor, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I make content just like this each and every week about all things living, breathing, playing, sleeping in the Chicagoland area. So make sure to come back and see me if that's something you're interested in. Okay, the most significant expense that you're going to be paying every month in Chicago is going to be for housing. We're going to look at home prices and rent. The average rent in Chicago right now is $2,215 per month. Now, the average sales price of a home in Chicago is about $350,000. Now, it's very important to note, this number is drastically skewed by the variance of home prices in such a big area like Chicago. In some neighborhoods, you can get a single family home for less than $80,000. In other areas of Chicago, you're going to be paying well over $1 million for a single family home. Location matters significantly in Chicago. So this actually skews the average price of a home down. Realistically, you're looking more at about $560,000 for an average home in Chicago. And right now, with the way interest rates are, as far as a monthly payment goes, you need to make nearly 6 figures in order to live comfortably in Chicago. Okay, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the most important things you want to know about cost of living in Chicago right now. I hope you got some value out of this video. Again, if you did, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.